and welcome to The Big Interview. Our guest this week is Gherardo Felloni, the creative director of Paris-based luxury fashion house Roger Vivier. Since starting his role in 2018, Felloni has brought his vast and unique experience in the world of fashion, working for houses including Dior, Miu Miu and Prada, to the luxury accessories maison. At Roger Vivier, he has dug into the archives of the house to reinterpret shoes like the Belle Vivier pumps, as worn by Catherine Deneuve in the movie Belle de Jour, and he has also modernized the brand with some sneakers, the Viv Run. Born in Tuscany, Felloni has already spent a lifetime living and working with shoes and accessories in his family atelier. While he originally planned to be an architect, his father encouraged him to apply his creative lens to shoes. As a designer, Felloni draws inspiration from his own personal passion for the arts, whether that's exploring interior design, collecting antique jewellery, or singing opera as a tenor. I'm Grace Charlton, and I spoke to Felloni ahead of the presentation of the Spring-Summer 2025 collection at Paris Haute Couture Week. Why did you decide to foray into couture and show as part of Paris Couture Week?
Yeah, so I really believe that Roger Vivier, it's a really special houses, it's a really special brand. Roger Vivier himself participated to this golden era in Paris where the silhouette of women change on history of fashion. I really believe that this kind of, for example, the new look of Dior, there's this 20% that it's made by the shoes of Roger Vivier. Without this kind of shoes, you cannot have this silhouette. And all this process of this amazing work that Roger Vivier done was made during haute couture area, And so I think that couture, it's a moment that for Roger Vivier, it could be important and can help me to communicate something that it's related to the savoir-faire, to this kind of artisans that are behind my ideas. Because if I have a really beautiful idea and I don't have this kind of artisan and savoir-faire behind, as for many designers, it's impossible to realize something beautiful. And Roger Vivier, it's a rare maison, it's a rare brand. It's disturbed. Roger Vivier needs to explain to the audience this kind of savoir-faire that they have. And I particularly decide to work on bags and not on shoes because it's more difficult, because our Viv Shop bag, it's like drapé bag, it's puffy bag, it's really complicated. It's like a couture dress in a way, but it's in leather. So all this kind of craftsmanship that we create on this kind of 15 bags, it's quite difficult and challenging. And the most beautiful things that I realized at the end is that all the artisans that work with us on these pieces, they was really excited and happy because there's no more space on fashion. I don't want to be so dramatic, but there's every day less space for this kind of craftsmanship. And this craftsmanship, it's something that gives to the artisan the occasion to express themselves and give me the chance to realize my ideas.
I love how it's always about the relationship between the artisans and the ateliers, but can you tell me more about your vision as the creative director for the presentation itself and how it's inspired by the salons? It sounds so beautiful.
So it's the third season that we are presenting Piece Unique during Haute Couture, and every season I try to find inspiration from things that I believe they are close to me, but also close to the maison. The first one was more about Paris, Parisian reference, architecture of Paris. And of course, I live in Paris. I'm an Italian living in Paris because of Roger Vivier, so it's something quite special. And of course, the maison is related to Paris because it's the house there. So, and then the second one was inspired by flowers, which is a big obsession. My big obsession. I love flower. I love gardening, and was also a Roger Vivier obsession because in the archive there's a lot of shoes with flowers, silk flower, all this kind of technique of couture that it was taken from the hats of couture and put it on the shoes for the first time on history. So it's really, I think he had a house with a big garden. I think he was a lover of nature in general and flowers. So it's something that answer to the maison heritage, but also to my needs, my preference. And I think couture is something that have to come from the heart in any way. And for the season, the inspiration was insect, this kind of little creature. And of course, I love gardening, and I see a lot of insect around me. And, I like this kind of contrast that sometimes insect could look a little bit scary, when they fly on your shoulder, when they fly on your head. You're scared at the beginning, but at the end, if you take time, if you think about it, if you look at them, you realize that they're really beautiful in terms of colors, shapes, but also they are really important for ecosystem, So me, that I work on my garden, I try to work on my garden every day when it's possible. It's something that inspired me. So it's really simple. It's something of my everyday life. It's something that I love, and I transpose this idea into reality by using this amazing savoir-faire.
I personally don't love insects, but even you just talking about it now makes me appreciate them a little bit more. I feel like you bring a lot of humor into your approach to fashion, and couture can sometimes be very serious, but what's the importance for you to have some element of play in your designs?
Yes, for me it's really important because I'm like that. Me, personally, I'm not taking myself too seriously. I love to make joke of myself, to make joke of others, and of course, I believe that fashion, in general, it's a moment for creative people, but also for final client to enjoy and have fun first. I don't want to say that fashion is not a serious job. It's really serious. It's really complicated. It takes a lot of your lifetime. You have to dedicate your life to fashion sometimes because it's beautiful. It's a passion. But at the same time, we have to enjoy what we are doing because people understand finally. And I like this point of view. It's my cup of tea, let's say. But at the same time, I really believe I never knew Roger Vivier in person, but from the work that I can see on the archive, you see that he was joking. He was not so serious. And that's make things contemporary, make things light, make things newer sometimes. If you take yourself too seriously, it's not my way of life.
How do you evolve an identity of a house like Roger Vivier in the 21st century? You've introduced sneakers and new pieces, but also brought back some old pieces. What are you thinking about as someone at the helm of a storied house like Roger Vivier?
Yes, you know what? I've been inspired by Roger Vivier for all my career, basically. Roger Vivier was one of my reference, When you are a young designer, you look at the past. You see history of fashion, you look at when I was younger, there was books more than internet. But, I always look at Roger Vivier as a reference of my career. So I always been inspired by him. And one of the things that I really believe is that Roger Vivier was an inventor, was a genius. He was someone that was trying, and he did it, was trying to every day to create something for the contemporary women. Of course, he was placed on the 60s, in the 50s, in the 70s, so contemporaneity was different than today. So I always said one of the first shoes that I designed for Roger Vivier was sneakers, and then was a sort of masculine shoes, because I think that today contemporary women are free, and the women walk, women work, women, so they deserve something like sneakers. They are comfortable, they can walk on around, so it's something for me really natural. I grew up in the 90s, so me and all my friends was wearing sneakers. So for me, it's quite not even that new. You know what I mean? For me, it's normal. It's like normal way of living. And I really, sometimes I make this joke that I really believe that probably Roger Vivier today, with the new technology, with the new savoir-faire that we have, probably he was supposed to work on his sneakers. Why not? You know? So I did it for him.
I think it's still really revolutionary. When I see that virgule heel, I'm like, wow, you don't see that shape often. And to me, the Roger Vivier shoe is like a wedding shoe. It's the fantasy, the glamour to the tips of your toes. When you're looking at the archive and trying to renew design icons, what are you looking for in particular?
But I have a really personal relation with the archive. When I arrive at Roger Vivier, I buy books, buy picture, by my research, I knew practically everything about him, about the archive. So in my mind was so clear what he was invented, what he was, his kind of career for me was quite clear. But of course, when I arrived at Vivier, I opened the archive. There was these big books, and I say, I want to see this. I choose like 30 pairs of shoes, the most relevant from my point of view, and also my dream shoes that I always see on picture and I desire to see from real. No? And I put all these shoes on a big table. I look at that for 4 days, and I say, okay, let's take everything outside. Let's bring it back on the archive. And I want to work with the idea that this kind of archive, this kind of really beautiful art pieces live on my brain. So that's my way of working. I never buy a vintage shoes. I never take a vintage shoes and take it on the factory and say, let's try to copy this here, let's try to copy this last, because it's not working. Today it's completely different. You cannot walk on a shoes that it's made on the 60s. So you have to renew it, you have to rework, but you have to take the idea of the archive. And of course, there's this component that are physically recognizable, like the virgule, the shock heel, the buckle. They're, let's say, really, they are in front of you. They are there. They exist. But what I try to take on my mind is that when I saw all these shoes in front of me, I realized that this designer and then this maison that he created is rare, really special. All the shoes was different, all the color was different, and that's something that makes Roger Vivier special. So that's why probably you say, the perfect marriage shoes, it's Roger Vivier, because he was a dream maker. There was this kind of mix and balance between elegance, between femininity, but at the same time modernity and really weird twist on this kind of virgule. For me, it's a weird twist of a really conservative shoes. So that's the game that he was playing. So that's what I try to have with me every day when I work. This kind of feeling more than physical piece of shoes.
I love that. Also, you touched upon this earlier, but I want to maybe eke more out of you. But what is the importance of working with such a high level of craft? And how does it influence the line? Because also, you grew up in a family of cobblers. Is this correct?
So my uncle was older than my father. So he started, and then my father started to work with him. So I spent a lot of time at the factory, because I think that when you're there, it's like your atelier, And of course, there's a part of the job that you have to dream and don't think about technology or stuff like that. But shoes are really complicated. You have to walk with this object. It's not like a bag. It's not like a dress. It's not like it's different. Your foot go inside something that have a form, have a last. So, and there's a heel. So the technical part of my job, it's really important for me. But growing up on a factory, on a shoe atelier, of course, give me tips. And that's why I start really young, and I was really prepared on something. I knew little tips from my father, from my uncle, to make things possible, to make my ideas, even if at the beginning looks like strange or difficult to realize, I know that I can do this. So that's helped me, of course, in all my career, but also at Roger Vivier, this kind of savoir-faire, it's something that, you always think every day of your life when you're a designer that this savoir-faire one day disappear, There's this kind of little line, really delicate, really, how do you say in English, really delicate, Every day of your life, you go in the factory, you go to the artisan, you go to the one that make embroidery, and you say, you're still here, you exist. So my idea can be real, because you always have this kind of feeling that someday will disappear. So, and Roger Vivier have this, so it's a big chance for me, and it makes my work easier and possible. So to work for me, to go to your question, work in a maison that have this kind of heritage and savoir-faire helped me so much. What can I do if I don't have the right factory, the right artisan make my ideas?
I love that. Also, you touched upon this earlier, but I want to maybe eke more out of you. But what is the importance of working with such a high level of craft, and how does it influence the line? Because also you grew up in a family of cobblers. Is this correct?
When I arrive at Vivier, I take like 10 days of thinking, and I realized that for me, for example, the first contact that I had with Roger Vivier was in a cinema in Italy, looking at the Belle Vivier movie, the Belle du Jour movie. So Belle Vivier is our Belle Vivier, but the Belle du Jour movie from Bonwell. And at the beginning, I didn't know about Roger Vivier because I was younger, and this movie was like restored and project again for the first time after decades. And I saw this movie and I said, oh my God, that's Paris, that's blah, blah, blah. And I was like obsessed. And then I realized that the shoes that she was wearing, Catherine Deneuve was wearing on this movie, was the Belle Vivier. So it was made by Roger Vivier. So I always, since the beginning of my job here in Roger Vivier, I really believe that a big component of the success and of Roger Vivier was cinema, was to be related with these great, powerful, confident women. So he dressed up Catherine Deneuve, Marlene Dietrich, the Queen of Elizabeth. So it was really, really a touch of this kind of, I like to say, confident women in a way, really powerful. And cinema is one of the most beautiful and easier way for me to give my point of view, to explain what I have in my mind. So that's why I try to use this kind of cinematographic point of view. It's not cinema. It's a cinematographic point of view. And that's why since the beginning I try to work with these kind of amazing actresses. We start with Catherine Deneuve and then Susan Sarandon, Isabella Rossellini, Cristina Ricci. And was exciting for me because finally I can work with them and exchange ideas. Once I had the occasion to meet Laura Dern, and I said, let's try to ask her if she wanna work with us in a campaign. I'm obsessed by David Lynch, and of course Laura Dern, she's the muse of David Lynch. And I said, she will never accept, no? I said to myself, let's try. So we spoke a little bit about it, and then I realized that she was obsessed by Roger Vivier. She told me that because sometimes this brand is rare. It's not a mainstream brand, which is really beautiful, because sometimes you can buy a shoes or a bag or a jewel that not everyone have it in his wardrobe. So it's really quite amazing. And she said, no, my obsession was Belle du Jour, Catherine Deneuve. When I was in Paris, I was dreaming about to buy a pair of shoes like that. I was obsessed by shoes, blah, blah, blah. So we proposed her to do this Vivier Express format. She was the first one. She's the first one. And she said yes, and she did it. So I was really happy because she's super talented, she's super intelligent, she's super kind, she's super nice. She's an Oscar winner, she's beautiful, and so she's confident. She has everything, So we did it. And the first episode of Vivier Express, we have Loredon playing for us, so I'm really happy. And of course, we're gonna continue with other episodes on the future.
So what's next for Roger Vivier?
Of course, now I'm working on the next Fashion Week event in September for Pret-a-Porter, so the big presentation of the collection the next season, which for me it's quite really beautiful but really big job. It's a big deal because we have to construct everything, and it's a show basically. It's not just a presentation, and so it's a big deal. So I have to work on that for September. We are working on next Roger Vivier Express, but it's top secret, of course. And of course because we already shoot the episode, so we are in post-production, but of course we are starting to think about the third episode, so it's a work in progress. So, but it's like this we decide to do this kind of episode, so we have to work constantly to evolve it. And of course, we are working on renovation of a new building, a new Hotel Particulier in Paris. It's gonna be our headquarters pretty soon. I hope next year. We are working on that. So there's a lot of things. Of course, then it's gonna come the next couture. So it's like many things.
And finally, can you talk to me about the very recognizable Roger Vivier buckle, which is very iconic? Every woman in my life loves Roger Vivier shoes. So can you tell me about the jewelry element of the brand?
So there's this buckle at Roger Vivier, which is an obsession for many designers, many clients. And it's really hard to explain why. That's the magic of fashion. You don't know why. But of course, as I told you before, probably this kind of Belle du Jour movie with this kind of pump with buckle that is inspired by Louis XIV's 18th century shoes and boots, but made like in this kind of really pure and casual in a way, because there's a chunky heel, that it was a comfortable shoes in the 60s, really feminine. So he take this buckle and put it on a pump. It's a simple revolution, no? Sometimes the most simple idea are the most efficient. And I try to, let's say, copy this buckle from here in other brands to try to be inspired by this buckle and try to do it better, but it's impossible. So Roger Vivier made it. Roger Vivier have the legacy of this buckle, and of course, every day I play with this. I play with color, with materialization, and so it's quite strange and surprising how it works, how it makes it makes the difference. When you use this buckle, you always have the perfect shoes, so the perfect bag or the perfect jewel. So it's really incredible. And of course, Roger Vivier worked on many buckles. There was jewel buckle. So he took craftsmanship from jewel and put it on a buckle on the shoes. Like the couture hats, he take the flower and put it on the shoes, as I told you before. So he do this process to take this kind of savoir-faire and craftsmanship of jewels and put it on the shoes. Now I'm doing the opposite. I take this kind of jewel buckle, jewel details that usually I use on the shoes and the bag, and I decide 2 years ago to start to work on this kind of custom jewel collection, which is working super well for two reasons. First, because I'm an antique jewel collector. For me, jewel, it's like a quiet. It's another obsession. There's the gardening and there's the jewel, the antique jewel collection. So it's 20 years that I'm doing this collection of jewel. So for me, working on jewel, custom jewel, it's something really easy and fun. I like it. It's something that's really spontaneous. And as I told you before, I like to continue this kind of association of the brand, of the house, to these women, powerful women, confident women. And these women, most of them, they are actresses. So they use their face to give emotion. So I didn't have something for the face. So I said, let's start to make some jewels. So we capitalize. We see the face, we see the jewel, and then we see the shoes, then we see the bag. So it was a little joke. I start to do it as a passion, as something fun. And then we realized that was a big chance for Roger Vivier. And so that's why it's one of our categories that's growing so much now. Bags and jewels are growing so much. So it's something that makes a silhouette behind the shoes, because Roger Vivier is not just shoes. As I told you before, he worked for Couturier, he worked for Christian Dior and Saint Laurent and many others, and there was an entire silhouette behind. So that's why sometimes I like to work a little bit on jewels or in this kind of gilet, embroidery gilet. So just to communicate an entire silhouette. Of course, it's related to the shoes and to the icons of the maison, as usual. But this kind of buckle, it's, these kind of icons, they are always there. And I like it. So there's the buckle, there's the comma heel, there's the shock heel. He invented stiletto. So there's a word behind this kind of code of the maison.
Which antique jewellery specifically do you collect?
So my collection is made, let's say 90% of my collection, it's 1830, 1860, so 19th century jewel. French and Italian mostly. I have something from England, but just one or two pieces, so because they're really rare. And in French there was a big production of jewel on this moment, so it's easier to find. And so I like to wear necklace as a uniform. Basically, my look is quite simple. Now I have a polo, or can I have a t-shirt or a shirt, and then I change my jewels like a scarf, basically. So that's my way to dress. And I'm a man, so I'm quite lazy to change me so much. So I just change a jewel that they are easy to bring with me, because I travel a lot. So
do you think you're attracted to the durable aspect of jewellery? A t-shirt can be washed and worn, but there's something a little more permanent about shoes and jewellery.
I work on fashion for many years. I'm super young. I'm not that old. No, I'm joking. And I realized that one of the goals for a designer is to do durable things, iconic product, iconic shoes, and that's the most difficult things, because it's not happening every day. So I think that shoes, bags, jewel, they can be something. I like the idea that if you buy shoes today or a jewels today, you're not throwing it away in one season. I really love this idea, and I think also that probably it's another reason because I decided to do this kind of piece unique collection. I think that this kind of approach to fashion, that you buy something today and then after 1 week or 2 weeks you get tired and you throw it away and you change your mind, is not sustainable. It's not good. So I like the idea that Roger Vivier, it's really well done, there's this savoir-faire. I work on this kind of permanent things, and I really rework on the theme, on the code, which is like, it's consistent.
I have one more question, which is a really cheesy question, so please forgive me, but who is the Roger Vivier woman today? Who are you designing for?
For me, it's really complicated to define one woman. I think it's a little bit, for me it's complicated, but it's also a little bit grotesque, because today I really believe that women are free, at least more free than yesterday. So I think that in one woman you can find a lot of women in the same women. You know, you can wake up in the morning and wear sneakers to go to gym, and then a black pump to go to your office, or another sneakers or wherever you want, and then in the evening you can have a really beautiful and sophisticated jewel pump, and then you get married and probably you want a high heel white pump. You never know. So for me to define specific women, it's little grotesque. It's not contemporary. So I don't like to do that. But I ask my question, what's the things in common, these women that I'm obsessed? I like to say, as I told you before, I'm really obsessed and really curious about confident women, because I think when you are confident, you can wear wherever you want. You're not scared. You don't think too much about other people's opinion. You enjoy it. You're not wearing something because you have to. You wear something because you like it, because you want it, and because you feel free and you enjoy. So I like to say that one of the most beautiful things of women that inspire me is when they are confident.
Thanks again to Gherardo Felloni for joining Monocle Radio for this edition of The Big Interview. That's it for this edition of The Big Interview. It was produced by Gunnar Gronlid and edited by Steph Chungu. From me, Grace Charlton, thanks so much for listening, and until next time.